let's go ahead and move on. Yes? Short and sweet?
Short and sweet as I can be.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'll stick the boss on you.
Yeah. Quickly.
Cough on you.
What?
She'll cough on you.
Oh, okay. Over here on the table, you'll see some bundles, and I've given several of them out. Business cards have Missouri Wing contact information on the front, and on the back side is both the Air Force Rescue Center and NOC contact information. That coupled with these brochures that are available from the NOC, our capabilities brochures. We continue to get members ask us, why did we get called for this incident or that incident, and it gets down to simply the people that need to call us don't know we exist. So use these cards, give them to your members, and use them when you're out talking to police departments, fire departments, local emergency management people. This card, along with one of these brochures, gives them the information they need to know how to get a hold of us. In a conversation, whether it be over a cup of coffee, over a soda, or whatever, you know, explain Civil Air Patrol to them. And that. Go to the fire chiefs meetings. You know, get on the agenda there and do a presentation. I've got a slide presentation that I can send you a PowerPoint. Tells them about CAP, and then hand these out. Also on these, if you go to the office supply, you can get some small stickers you can download. Well, a lot of times the stickers will come with the software. Otherwise, you go online and just download the format, the software, to be able to print them. Print the sticker with contact information, local contact information, and put it on this brochure so that they can say, oh yeah, I remember I talked to this guy. Let me give him a call and talk to him on that. So there you go on that. You've all heard about SET. Ron mentioned that. I'm going to turn it over to the wing training, emergency service training officer, Captain Worster, and he's going to brief on what's going on with SET, skills evaluator training. So, Austin.
Okay, first thing I'm going to say and preface this whole thing is, please do not harm the messenger. Mrs. Worcester's favorite son likes her body parts still attached to her favorite son. So, let me talk about some non-controversial things first. The learning management system is now in e-services, and it is operational, both from a professional development, and emergency services, and a communications, and a couple other different areas. If you go into e-services on the left-hand side of the toolbar, towards the bottom, you'll see Learning Management System. If you click on that and go into the Learning Management System, you'll see several lists of courses. COM just released 3 courses, the ISR training, the HFALE training, and the fixed station training to get a fixed station permit. Those were 3. They were just released in the last week. I took them. They're very straightforward. They're not complicated. And actually, the HFALE one was very good in giving the presentation on how to. So was the ISR one. There's the Officer Basic course for professional development. There's an IG Basic course, but you have to enroll in the IG program to do that. As CAP continues to migrate to this system, things that used to be under CAP University, ES tests, operational tests, are going to migrate over to that learning management system. If you cannot find it where you normally would find it, go look at learning management system. It's probably been migrated. Supposedly over the next year, all of those tests under CAP University, particularly the operational tests and the PDO tests, will migrate to the learning management system. Okay, moving off of that topic, onto skills evaluation. Effective January the 22nd, National Headquarters instituted a new skills evaluator person system. It is now under operations quals. Just having SET on your card no longer qualifies you to be a skills evaluator for a specific skill. There are other qualifications that have always been in regulation, but not necessarily always enforced. The system now, and the wing staff occasionally has to play the bad guy. We'll get something that's gone through a squadron commander, a group commander, and now sitting for wing approval, and we look at it, and quite frankly, I'll be really blunt, especially for me, if my name's going on it, I'm going to make sure that the due diligence is done because I hold a certain amount of liability if I'm approving something. And we'll look at something and we'll find out that the person whose cap ID is in as the skill evaluator isn't either current in that skill and hasn't been current for some time, but they have an SET, or they haven't held that qualification long enough, and we wind up rejecting it and sending it back and saying, wait, whoever did this, please put in somebody who can do this, and we'll be happy to approve it then. That's not just a Missouri Wing problem, that's been a national problem. And so the new skills evaluation portion in OPSQuals was designed to try and fix some of that. Now, I realize that some regulations can be a little bit ambiguous. The ambiguity involved in that, or the ambiguousness of it, don't blame the messenger. I run into these things fairly regularly. Somebody will say, hey, I want to award this award to somebody. They were qualified for it, but now they're not. And it should have been awarded back then, but now what do? To be really blunt, we don't make those decisions arbitrarily. If we don't have an answer for it and it's not very clearly stated in regs, it winds up going all the way up to national headquarters for clarification. Because I don't know what the intent of the reg is in a lot of cases. They do. And so I'll get an interpretation from them. So we at Wing staff do not make these decisions arbitrarily. January 22nd, they instituted this new program. For the next 3 months, the old SET system still works. Okay? On April 22nd, the new system will be the only one that will function. Right now, for the next 3 months, they're allowing this time to allow Wing and Region staff to select specific SETs and get that program up and flying. Here's where it's a little ambiguous again. It says commanders, but it doesn't say commanders down to what level can select. I have a question in to John Damaris to give me an answer for that. You know, is this a squadron commander selection? Is it a group commander selection? Who's making that decision? And when the system allows overrides for very specific conditions, who can make that override request, and at what levels does it go through? Does it have to be approved all the way up to the wing level, or does it stop at the squadron level? I don't know those answers yet. That's what this 3-month developmental period is for. Give me just a minute to cover the system and then we can answer questions. Because maybe I'll answer what you have to say. Right now, I'm going through, I've started in group 2 because that happens to be people I'm familiar with, and going through this system. When you are approved for an SET for a specific skill, you must be current in that skill, you must have held that skill for a year, and you must have completed SET training. If all 3 of those conditions exist, you can be approved to be a skill evaluator for that specific skill. That must be appointed by a commander or someone with or their designee is how it's put in the system right now. Right now, Wing and Region people can do that. We found that you can do an override at the wing level. We've already done that to see if it can be done. We know that can occur. I don't know if it can be done down to the group or the squadron level yet. So, the system will not allow you to select somebody for an SET for a skill they are not current in, do not have the year in, and do not have the SET. Let me clarify the override conditions. If they do not have SET training, an override cannot occur. The system will not allow it. If you have paper documentation to support what you're asking for, you can request the override, or you have a good reason for it. Override should be the exception rather than the rule. It's not a convenience thing. It's the system hiccuped. If you remember when we transitioned in OPSQuals from the old system to the OPSQuals 1.2 or whatever it was, some people's skills disappeared. Things that they'd had for years. So if you have something to document or back up what you're saying and you need an override, that's a good reason to do one. ICUT was brought up to me. Nobody has had ICUT for a year. It hasn't existed. Evaluators for I-cut can be selected in the system, and that would be a good reason to do an override. Because nobody's done it for a year, it's not been in existence. But if they've had A-cut and B-cut and been authorized to teach that, that would be a good reason to override. Now, on your cards, when you do a 101 card now, I have no idea if the SET is going to disappear off of the card. Currently, it is still on there. However, the way to determine whether somebody is qualified to instruct a specific skill is there will be a black diamond on the 101 card, and if you happen to look at your new 101 cards, it's actually in the legend now, that they are qualified to instruct that skill and sign off on it. For the next 3 months, people that still had the SET under the old system can still enter their number as a skilled evaluator, and it will warn you that they are not listed as a current evaluator, but it will not prohibit the entry. Under the new system, when it goes into effect, if, for example, Colonel Rue is qualifying for some whatever skill it is and uses my CAP ID number as his evaluator, and if I'm qualified to evaluate that, it'll permit it, but it will send me a validation notice. As the evaluator, I must validate that he did that. It stops a lot of the, well, this guy's CAP ID number is in there and, you know, he's halfway across the country, he may never see that. It happens. I see that occasionally where there's a CAP ID number that I do a Missouri search. He's not a Missouri person. I do a Kansas search, not a Kansas search. I do the states around me. Nope, he's in California. Okay, where did that come from? I'll explain that here in a minute, how to deal with that. But anyway, if he puts it in, I'm not the one that enters it. It sends me a validation notice and I must validate it for that skill to be approved. If a skill has been put in a squirter and 2 years later they haven't completed it, the skill expires. That was in regulation, but was not always enforced. Now the system will not allow you to do that. You'll have to repeat the skill and have to be revalidated. If you are the skill evaluator and you put it into the squirter yourself, you don't have to revalidate it. It automatically validates itself. Okay, there are now also, April 22nd, there will be renewal squirters going into effect. I have no idea what those look like, and I have no idea how they're going to operate yet. That's what came out in the notice on SET. If you want to see what I got in writing, everybody in the CAP world got it. It's on e-services in their notes. That's kind of how this works, and we asked specifically how some of these things would work and what their interpretation is. And keep in mind, this is a new system and there are going to be bugs, and we'll work through the bugs. You know, just by all means, if you have a question or if something hiccups, please send me an email. You've all probably seen my email about 1,000 times already, so I don't need to repeat it. But if you need something, send me an email, send Colonel Fuller an email, and we'll work through the problem. Because this isn't going to be a perfect system, but it will be better than what it was. And it will prevent a lot of these problems we're having at various levels of should I approve this or should I not approve this. The other thing I do need to say is if there are supporting documents that go for a specific qualification, they must be uploaded for us to approve them. It works really well at the squadron level. Oh yeah, I taught that class, the guy sat through the class, he did I-100, IS-200, CERT, whatever. You guys know them. When it gets all the way up to our level, there are 1,000 people here. I do not know every single face, and I do not know every single person. And so without that documentation or that certificate, it doesn't mean anything. The system allows, I think there's what, 200 documents is the maximum upload, and you can upload documents for each skill. So if it comes with a certificate, it makes life so much easier if you upload it. Then I can see if they're qualified or not. Lots of things coming up. Right now we have about $8,000 in the training budget. That's half of what we had last year. At some point I'm hoping they'll release the rest of the funds. Nobody knows when or if that's going to occur. But right now we have $8,000 in the training budget from the Air Force. That's not state funds, that's the Air Force funds. And so there'll be some training missions coming up and some training projects coming up. We'll put those out to emails to everybody to get participation statewide as much as possible. We did get a Jeep system from the Office of Homeland Security here in the state. You would not believe the red tape necessary to get that system into the state.
What was that, sir? What system?
A Jeep, Geospatial Interoperability Intelligence Exploitation Portable. One breath, something like that. It provides us a capability of doing full motion video. The Guard has 2 units. Every Guard division in the country has 2 units. We were able to get one of our own, and Civil Air Patrol Headquarters, National Headquarters, has 5 of them. There are currently 4 instructors in the country who are allowed to teach that, and we got NHQ to say one of the instructors that we have here in the wing to be allowed to teach that off-site. It's only been allowed to be taught under special circumstances at Maxwell Air Force Base or at NISA. So we're going to bring it to the program to this state. We're going to run a pilot program where the equipment is based, which is the Gateway Squadron, and then after that we'll run a Jeep training for qualified individuals throughout the wing. So hopefully that covers all of the training stuff, and I got that out almost in one breath. Sir?
The only thing that we haven't clarified yet, or got clarification from National, is the training matrix of who can sign off.
Actually, I asked about that, and I was told that and here's the rationale. The old training matrix, the old who could supervise who, IC1s could supervise anybody and everybody, that's going away. And the rationale behind that, and actually was pretty good rationale, is let's say the person's an IC1 and they can sign off anything and everything. That includes ground team or air crew. Well, there are 2 paths to IC. You either come up through the ground team side or you come up through the air crew side. Very rarely does somebody come up from both sides. And so you would have people signing off on skills that they may never have done and are not current in. And so it made a lot of sense to me. So the old supervision matrix is going to disappear.
Okay.
To be qualified to sign off on somebody, you must be current, aside from the year, and you must have had SET. Any other questions? Did I answer your question?
No, I've got a couple more. The one that you just touched on, the supervision matrix training, I was under the impression that to get up to the IC program, you have to be both a GBD and an ABD.
No, you either have to be one or the other to get to Operations Section Chief, and then from Operations Section Chief you become an IC. Yes,
You do have to be if you're GBD, you have to be a scanner, or if you're AOBD, you have to be GTF 3, but you don't have to be AOBD and GBD.
Maybe they should change that.
Right.
Anyway, a couple of questions. You were talking about uploading certificates and documentation. Is that something we have to pass off to you gentlemen for you to upload, or is there a site?
No, the individual can do it themselves.
What is that site?
It's in e-services.
When you just click the upload, document upload.
Right, never mind that.
I'll show you where it is.
And going back to the skills task evaluator, the new program, the closing loopholes, that's good. I'm glad. It's a good thing. Are the existing evaluators that are current under all of the regulations, the old regulations, safe?
No, they are for the next 3 months. After that, they have to be re-qualified through. I'm going to stand way over here, ma'am.
Sorry. I got the Kleenex out in time. Todd's really happy, actually.
So the answer to that is no. They're going to have to be reappointed for their specific skills. Because under the old system, if you had SET and you had whatever skill, whether you're current or not, if it showed up on your card, you could get away with signing it off. And it basically tightens the system down quite a bit.
And you know, and I'm probably going to upset a lot of people by saying this, but I'm going to come out and say it. Does this mean that we're pulling back on the cadets being able to sign off on tasks?
Not at all. The way I interpret this, and again, I don't know at what commander level that's going to occur, but if it's all the way down to the squadron level, the squadron commander can appoint people to train whoever they want.
Right. And, you know,
As long as they meet those 3 minimum qualifications, the system will accept it.
That's the question is, you know, hopefully we find out before the last drop dead day who appoints who.
Absolutely, and I'm working on that.
Yeah, okay.
It only went into effect the 22nd,
Yeah.
And already these questions are being generated, so.
Well, the ambiguity of the announcement that commander, region, and wing we're appointing, you could just see the paperwork nightmare for the wing commander at this level, so, you know.
And actually, it says our designee, and they've allowed, the way the system is set up, the state ES officer, the ES training officer currently can do it. I don't know. I'm going to have to list some guinea pigs to see what we can and cannot do.
So can you designate them now?
Yes, I can designate SCT people now.
So wouldn't it be kind of in our best interest to send you a notice to say, let's designate so-and-so and kind of get ahead of the curve?
Yeah. Yes. Yes and no. Please let me find out first whether or not a squadron commander can do that, because that would save me a nightmare of getting 600 names saying, qualify this person.
We need to go ahead and wrap this one up. If you have more questions for him, please send him an email. You know, one of the things that we're going to address here in the next coming months is I'm going to get with Austin, and we're going to start putting some of this training requirements, getting in front of the camera so that we can, for those that are not here, they can go back and watch and see some of this stuff and you know, get caught up. So look for that to come, but please, if you have questions, please send it to them. So let's go ahead and move on. Colonel Fuller, the other Colonel Fuller, admin and personnel.
Okay, just real short and sweet. I've talked to a couple group commanders today, and I'm asking the other group commanders, please appoint a personnel officer. It'll make your life easier, it'll make my life easier. When paperwork comes in for promotion or whatever, if somebody, meaning the group personnel officer, double checks the person, that the person really is qualified and the paperwork is filled out correctly, it saves me having to go back and saying, you know, this guy or gal or whatever is fine, but I need documentation. I don't care if he is or whatever. He can't get a professional appointment because he's a doctor because of this if I have no proof he's a doctor. So the group person could intercept a lot of that, and it would help make my life easier. And that way then by the time it comes to wing, we know you've checked. Yes, we'll double check, but if you've got everything there, it makes it go faster. The wing commander can then approve things faster, and things will hopefully get posted a lot faster. Sometimes national post promotions and awards really fast, and sometimes they don't. We have no control over it, but we try to send it in as quickly as we can once it's verified. And second thing, when you email me things, please, in the subject line, let me know what it is. Don't just say paperwork. Well, I mean, you know, put down this is for level 3 for Joe Smith, FID number 12345. Because that's what I do when I send it to national, and that helps. They told me that helps them a lot. They know what's coming in. But just when you send it to me and probably any other member of staff or anything else, put a subject line in, let us know what it's for. You know, I mean, paperwork could be anything from a joke to who knows what. So, and that's basically all I have.
Transportation, let me address something with transportation. And I haven't really had the opportunity to talk with Major Chevalier about this. But I talked with Colonel Williams. I said, hey, why do we need to fill out a 175 for in-house, for local, for vans, for justification? Why can't we put this online? Sure, go for it. So what we have done is the 175, you as a unit do not need to do a 175 for a vehicle justification. What you do need to do is to go to the Wing website and go to logistics and fill out the vehicle justification form online. What that does is, just like these other processes, it sends an email, even if you're the commander, it sends an email to you as the commander to go in and validate it. Yes, I think we need to have a van. So if you're the commander, you're going to get your email back to yourself, and you're going to go back in and say, yes, I think we need to have this van. Then it sends it to logistics. Logistics will look at it and say, yes, I agree, this is a valid justification, here's my recommendations. Logistics forwards that on, and it goes to Colonel Williams. And actually it's going to me right now, but I got to add her email into that. It goes to Colonel Williams, and she says yay or nay. That does not mean you get a van. That means we agree your unit is justified in having a van. Okay? At that point, the logistics team, along with Colonel Williams, myself, the Vice Commander, will sit down and rack and stack and say, okay, you know, this unit's had one for 15 years, but you've only got 40 miles on it in the past year. This unit is using 6 POVs to get their 67 cadets to an activity. They need a van, okay? And then we'll make those justifications on moving or whatever we need to do, okay? So just because you'll get the email back, and it says that in the email, you'll get a response back once they're reviewed. So for those of you who submitted one, we just haven't reviewed them yet at the command level. Once you get that response back, it'll come back and say, we agree, you need a van, or we don't agree, and if we're able to give you one, we'll give you one, okay? So if you've submitted one, and you haven't done the commander approval yet, we haven't seen it. So I think I've only seen 3. We set a deadline of 15 February for that. So please go in and justify your vehicles. If you have problems with the system, as always, contact me about it. Don't sit on it. Don't wait. Let me know as IT that you're having problems. You know, at a minimum, forward me the email after you submitted it, because you as the user automatically get an email, and so does the commander. So forward me that email, and we'll make sure that it gets reviewed. Okay? It might be just as simple as you could get the little checkbox to click that says, I approve it. Okay? And I just forwarded one last night to Colonel Williams. Like I said, they're coming to me right now, but it's because I forgot to change my email address in there. So they're coming to me, and I forwarded one to her last night that says, here's this vehicle justification that requires your approval as the wing commander. So if we, as the wing, say, yes, we want more vans, we'll do the 175 that goes on to national to request that new van. And at that point, that's when we'll determine who gets that van. So please use that form. Don't send us an actual 175. And part of the reason for that is the 175 just has a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily need. Has all these signature blocks that we don't necessarily need. We can resolve it, especially if you're just doing a justification as to why you need to keep your van. So that said, let me wear my hat here for just a second. I got a lot of hats. Our aerospace officer's not here today. He had a medical issue in the family that came up last minute yesterday afternoon. So our prayers are with that family. But something that is new that's come down the pipes that is related to aerospace, that also is related to cadet programs, is the new STEM program. You guys heard about this? STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that program is extremely important in funding for the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marines. They want those outstanding engineers. So where does that come into play for you? I haven't read all the details on STEM. All I can tell you right now at this point is we just got the email yesterday. You forwarded it to me from the National Commander. It's on the national website. Go check it out. All I can tell you right now at this point is there's 5 modules. Those modules complement the already existing aerospace program, but it gives you more actual hands-on resources that you can use in your unit to do aerospace. And this is what I want to get the opportunity to talk to our aerospace director and really formulate this program. But let me tell you, from the recruiting perspective, the recruiters want to support you with this program. They want to come to your unit and watch you do your competitions based off of STEM and present awards and different, give different giveaways and whatever else for the Air Force. Obviously because they want to recruit your cadets. But it's a great opportunity for you to get your cadets interested in aerospace and recognized for their outstanding achievement in that program. Boy Scouts do it, and recruiting jumps all over that program. You know, Boy Scouts hosted a jamboree not too long ago at Scott Air Force Base, where they had, the rockets that propelled, along the string, and the Lego engineering competitions and robotics and different things like that were all presented. And those awards go on. Well, guess what those awards do for you? may not seem real significant, but when you're filling out your resume to go to an engineering school or to go to college, that's just one more thing that says, hey, the Air Force is recognizing this guy as, you know, smart. Okay? I'm not an engineer. I wish I could do some of those things that those kids are doing. It was amazing. I mean, we had a robot that was there. In fact, this year it's Frisbees. But had a robot that was there at this presentation that would pick up a basketball and throw it to you. You know, these kids built this, and they can control it with their computer. Okay, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the level of the project that you're going to get in STEM, but that's some of the things that you can explore because of this. Okay, my plan is looking forward is with the Air Force help is to take STEM and probably at Wing Conference take what we've built over the year with these 5 modules and hold a competition based off of what was taught. We'll work with Captain Cruz on how to put that together, but recognize that, bring the Air Force in to hand out those awards at the end of the year, probably at Wing Conference, or maybe even at its own event. So that's something going forward with STEM. Any questions on that?